It is time for Appraise This with Tim Luke and Greg Strom, the appraisal guys, the frickin' frack of Nick and Knack. Treasure Quest Appraisal Group can be found on the web, tqag.com, but they can be found right here on a Tuesday morning. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
So, how are things down there in sunny Florida?
Hot.
One word, hot.
HOT.
Well, it's been kind of warm here too. We had another hot and humid day yesterday and today, but we're going to squeeze the best out of summer we can over the next couple of weeks because the summer's been so strange. We just want to enjoy some decent summer weather for the next couple of weeks.
Well, after Labor Day, Connecticut doesn't it snow?
You're echoing again there, Tim, Greg, for some reason. I don't know why, but you're echoing.
Why? I can't figure that out. I'm not doing anything different.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. So, anyways, what's on the agenda for today between the two of you?
Well, go ahead, Greg.
Since I'm echoing, they'll listen to me twice, so why don't you go ahead?
I'll close one ear.
You were actually good that time.
Is that better?
Go.
Yeah. So you can lead off, Greg.
Okay. Well, I'm with the storm that's had these two storms that are happening in the Gulf, the phones have been kind of ringing a little bit more than usual because people want their things appraised before the storm. It doesn't work quite that way. First of all, people don't often realize that once a storm has been, once it starts and it's headed towards you, it's virtually impossible to get any insurance on anything. So they're just going to have to roll the dice and take their chances and have us do the appraisal after the fact or after the storm to be ready for the next one. So my advice to people is don't put it off. If you know we're in a very, very busy hurricane season, don't wait until it's knocking at your front door before you decide to have your items looked at or even inventory. You should at least get an inventory and photographs.
Well, I was going to say you can do that yourself by going around your house and photographing everything as it is, and have some sort of visual marker like a newspaper that you hold, just so you have some sort of semblance of proof.
Absolutely, we recommend that to people. In fact, that's what we have been telling people because first of all, it's bad enough with the storm at your front door, but you add to that the COVID crisis where you just can't walk into somebody's house. So we just say, just document everything. Make sure you've got it on photographs or iPhones or your whatever your phone, whatever your video is, and just videotape it and make sure that you keep it in a safe place until it's time or you finally decide to bite the bullet and have someone take a look at it. So we're hoping
the great thing
safe, but go ahead.
And the great thing with technology is that the dates automatically get stamped. So you do have a date, you have a time, when it was taken. So utilizing that technology also really helps.
Now, I want to get turn a little serious here for a second, Tim, because a couple of people raised this question with me yesterday. In New York, there's been a question raised about a piece of property, several pieces of property that were appraised, and they possibly were appraised at a higher rate. So when portions of those properties were donated, you got a bigger tax break on it. Now, I know this is not what you do, but you do it you do it instead of land. You do appraisals like this with actual physical things, and there is a there are laws out there to protect people from exactly that, and that's why people were asking, why is this so important? Well, because if you just allowed unchecked or unverified verifications of what people claim to be, it would be complete chaos.
Correct. And a lot of what that goes into is that it depends on the date of donation. It depends on where the market is. There's so many different factors. That's why you need to make sure that you have a real professional appraiser that's putting this together, that can look at the marketplace, make those distinctions in what's going on. One of the things that I'm doing today is actually taking an 8-hour appraisal review class, because there's a review process. If a client maybe doesn't like the or wants to make sure that the appraisal is correct or doesn't agree with it, they can go to a non-biased, independent appraisal reviewer, and say, are they right on, or is this not? And where that comes in is a lot with IRS, income tax, or for donation, is that if they feel that it was too high or too low, or even can go back to the appraiser and say, wait, can you explain to me why this value is what it is? So there's a lot of things, and I think that a lot of times both appraisers and individuals, and this has happened to me, where a client will come back, and it's happened to both of us, where a client will come back and just say, I thought it was going to be higher, and why is it only here? And then we explain, and then in some cases that's fine. In other cases they will say, oh, I have to give you all this other background information about this, and here's, and sometimes you do have to reconsider if there are other things that make it valid to maybe make a change, but not always. It's if you get all that information right up front, then you can do that. So whether it's real property, real estate, or the personal property and tangible items, you have to really look at where the market is. I'm working on a big project now and doing an appraisal review, and unfortunately the appraisers, when they looked at the marketplace, they didn't take into consideration a lot of the subtleties that were in that marketplace. And I think that that's the key to a good appraisal, is being able to articulate those differences in the marketplace and say, here's why it is only here and it isn't X amount, or it isn't wherever it comes in, whether it's high or low.
What I think people lose sight of, normal people who lead normal lives, and I'm not talking about, I'm just, you lead a normal life. You have your things appraised, but if you're in business, if you're a collector, whether it's car, whether it's art, whether it's you're a businessman that buys properties, you also use these properties to get loans, offset loans.
Sure.
So
for investments.
That's the whole thing about this, that it's not just that a big house or a piece of land. People can try to game the system to make more money.
That, and they can monetize it. And people are actually doing art loans. Banks are, depending on the level of the artwork and the collection, they will, there are some banks that will help you monetize that, so that if you need to set up a trust, or there's a variety of different financial tools that are out there, and that's where you need to talk to a financial advisor. Where we come in is the appraisal side, is saying, yes, we can help you with the fair market value, because they also want to know, the bank wants to know, what is the liability if we extend credit or extend money on this and everything goes south? What is our liability? So it's really understanding all of the different aspects that go into why people are looking for, why they need an appraisal, why they do these things for their collection, with their collections.
It's just such a convoluted world, and now because money is, because we're in such a period where things are astoundingly expensive, whether it's land, whether it's a custom used car, whether it's pottery or whatever, it makes it even more important. And I guess this is what I'm trying to stress this morning, and the importance of having, well, you explain it on a weekly basis, of having somebody who really knows what they're doing, but is also honest enough to say, listen, if you don't like this appraisal, then go someplace else. But this is exactly what we see.
Well, one of the great things about that last point is, as long as you can provide the client with proof, I think that's probably the one thing that it's so much easier to do in the days in these days of technology. Almost immediate, instantaneous proof that the value that you put on something is truly the value that you've given them, because we can look it up so quickly, and it's there again, everything based on comparables. But the key there is to make sure that you have the best comparables available, so that if it comes to the point of you having to defend your value, you can actually say, here it is in black and white. I'm not making these numbers up. So that's a very important point to also remember.
Well, yeah, and it's the proper use of comparable sales, because sometimes people will just try to really reach out and whole. It doesn't apply. The comparable doesn't apply just because it's the same type of item, but it's an entirely different marketplace. So those things you just have to be very careful of.
And you're also at times brought in as forensic witnesses, right?
Well, I haven't been yet, but I know Tim has.
Yeah. Yes. We do that, and that's where a lot of and also just answering the question, getting to the point, and moving on. That's what you have to do. So and I've done that, and and I've written reports, and also have been through depositions. So yeah.
There is another important point that needs to be made in this situation, and that is, just because somebody is asking a certain amount, you can do internet research. Just because, let's say, for example, we're talking about, it doesn't matter what it is, land, art, collectibles. If somebody is selling something, you can ask whatever you want for it. That does not mean what it's worth. And if you have to, a lot of times, explain to the client that this is not really a fair comparable, because you can ask whatever you want. It doesn't mean that's what it's worth. It's only upon a consummated sale do you have a comparable that within a certain period of time that is a valid comparable. So that's something else to take into consideration when you're doing these appraisals.
Well, I just wanted to get that because there's so much when that story broke yesterday, back and forth on Facebook, where people just don't really understand the value of having a correct appraisal, the right people do appraisal, and how if you try to game the system, sooner or later the system will come back and bite you in the rear end, because it's pretty well protected.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've seen it more often. Right. We've seen it so many times happen. And that's not what our job is. Our job is to manage the expectations of the client and to be as honest and forthright as possible, to give them a conclusion that they can go forward with whatever it is they're trying to do, whether it's trying to get a loan for something, whether they're trying to monetize it for like a business has gone south and you decide that it has to be appraised, and how much it's going to sell for, so all of these things are expectations that have to be managed, and our job as appraisers is to manage those expectations for the client in a most honest and forthright way we can.
Right. Our job is to be IIO. This is what we teach: independent, impartial, and objective.
All right, guys. I appreciate you getting into the depth of it with me this morning. We'll talk about something lighter and more valuable probably next week.
Okay. Have a
Take,
great week.
take care, guys.
Have a great week, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Tim Luke and Greg Schramm, the appraisal guys, the frickin' frack of Nick and Knack with Appraise This on Robin Hood Radio.